For the listener who can't see Nick's face, who's like, yeah, Doug's frustrating.
I feel seen.
Welcome to the Two Authors Podcast, an entertaining chat show hosted by best-selling mystery and thriller authors Douglas Pratt and Nicholas Harvey, in lively, humorous and informative conversation with distinguished guests who share their thoughts and experience about forging a successful author career.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Another great day, another great show brought to you by Vellum, the most wonderful, spectacular formatting solution in the entire galaxy. Like if you were in Star Wars and you were in a galaxy far, far away, Vellum would still probably be the best formatting solution.
In the Cayman Trench.
In the Cayman Trench,
1,000 feet below.
Bottom of the sea, Vellum would still be the
Vellum to format your books you were writing down there.
You know what you could do in those books you wrote down there?
What could you do?
You could put backgrounds and borders that Vellum has. Like you could probably do like little octopuses around the border of your book if you want to do. That's how cool they are.
I'm dying to do, and we've talked about this with several folks, and I'm trying to remember when this episode comes out, but with Sarah Rosette doing special editions, Joe Penn doing special, lots of people we know are doing special editions, and it's very exciting. I'm dying to do one. So I'm going to use the crap out of backgrounds and borders when I do a special edition. I've just got to figure out what to do for when, how, maybe a Kickstarter, all that kind of stuff. But brilliant for that stuff.
Also, you can find a link to the show notes to check out the features on there, but also a big thank you to our Patreon supporters. So if you feel like you're getting some value from our show, you can come over to Patreon at patreon.com/the Two Authors Podcast. And we'll have a few extras in our free tier. We have our podcast nuggets, which is just you and I chatting about things, sometimes off the wall, sometimes business related, sometimes just pure bullshit.
It can be. Oh, and remember, folks, send in questions. If you have questions you want answered in the intros to the shows or in the nuggets, send us your questions. We'd love to get them.
Send us some topics. We do get tired. Otherwise, we'll just end up talking about whatever comes to mind. And I have a very rolling mind that takes me all over the place. So as we're probably going to find out today, right? So.
Oh, we are going to find out today for sure, because our guest today is the wonderful Becca Syme, and she is a returning guest to the show, and she's braving it to analyze Doug and his Clifton Strengths.
Analyze? That's a little scary, analyzing me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, that was my fault for not having it ready last time she was here, so now I get tortured. Is that the way it works?
Yes. We're going to tip you back in the seat, shine a bright light in your face, telling me about your childhood.
Like the marathon man. All right.
Yeah.
Well, before we get going, we're going to get a question from Maureen from Pennsylvania. She wants to know, which characters do you find the hardest to write?
I don't know. I don't want it to sound arrogant, but I can't think of a particular character I find hard to write. What I find challenging sometimes is in amongst your cast of characters, making sure that everyone has their own voice. So especially when you can end up with, we do thrillers and police procedural whodunits and that kind of thing. And you can end up with several people who are similar type folks, potentially. Like if you've got 3 middle-aged men, right, in various scenarios, making sure they're all slightly different. They each have a characteristic, and it can't just be a look, because you can only describe that look once, right? It has to be something about the character and the way they interact that needs to have its own voice to stand out. And what makes me really conscious of that is audiobooks, because when you start thinking in terms of how's my narrator, when I send this to Kim or Shelley, how are they going to deal with these and give these people a different voice so it stands out?
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, because until you start thinking about how it is. And what was it? Wasn't it our good friend Nick Thacker who said he wrote everybody as a sarcastic white guy?
Yeah, everyone. Yeah, that's right.
I think it's that is the challenge, is to write somebody who's not like you anyway, because it's easy for us. And you do a really good job. Your main characters are almost always women, and I think you do a pretty good job.
That's a good
Pretty
start.
job of writing a woman. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a woman, so maybe the women disagree, but I think you do a pretty good job of it. So I think anytime you step outside of the bounds of what you know, and that's something. It's weird. You'll get this kind of advice from different people. There are people who say write what you know, and I'm not always a big fan of that. I think you should do that. I think you should take what you know and put it into the book, but you should be able to push past that and figure out how to write other things. I mean, because if you're writing sci-fi, you don't know anything about the spaceships. You may know a lot about science, but a lot of that's theoretical, so you don't really know it. So it's the same kind of principle. I want to look at trying to write different characters. We joke all the time about men writing women and breasting things, but so you want to be aware of when you're writing other things that you're not writing it. It's better to write different characters that are different than to write everything like you are the sarcastic white guy. So, I think that's just take a good look at it, and I think that's important. I don't know if it's hard. So again, sometimes I think we don't answer these questions when they ask them, but it's hard. They're so nuanced, and I think that kind of gives us a little bit of an angle to look at. So
yeah. Well, I can't wait any longer. Let's get to our guest, Becca Syme, who is an author of Cozy Mysteries and a series of nonfiction books about writing which come from her Better, Faster Academy. Becca is a Gallup-Certified Strengths Coach with a master's degree in transformational leadership with 15 years of experience in success coaching. She's a really cool lady. We've had her on
Hold on,
before.
I got to get my Kleenex before we get started. I have a feeling
you're
going to
need some
before I get done. Yeah.
From one end or the other, you're going to need Kleenex. All right, let's get Becca on the show. Becca, we're already laughing. Becca, thank you so much for coming back on the show and giving us more insights into how you help authors achieve the best they can be. And you have a challenge today because you're going to have to improve a Doug. Improving on a Doug.
Improving on me is tough. Yeah, it's a real challenge. So,
so let our listeners know a little bit about Better Faster Academy and what you do in your coaching.
Because everyone is so different, and because the way that most industries tend to focus their success orientation is towards kind of a stamping, right? Like, here's what a great writer looks like, and let's just try to stamp that on every person, because as a system, that's what systems are good at. But unfortunately, that doesn't work because humans are so different. And so a big part of what Better Faster Academy does is tries to figure out what kind of stamp we should use to judge how you will be the most successful, and then how to help you get into alignment about that. So much of what we do is encouraging people to stop working against expectations that they have developed because of the stamp, which the stamp is not a thing. It doesn't truly exist. It's just easiest for the industry to do that. But there are 378,000 ways that writers can be successful. And if you know which one you are, then we know exactly how to align you for your best success and help you go off like a rocket ship, which is the goal.
Brilliant. So our goal today is to align Doug.
Yes.
Cool. So this is basically typical of, if someone hires your services, this would be a typical session of going through their strengths.
Probably they don't have you sitting there to critique them too. Like, Becca's probably very nice. You get to be the bonus. Like,
you can do it without an audience. Yeah,
you're like what are the two old guys from the Muppets sitting in the?
Oh yeah.
That's exactly what you're going to be right there. So,
yeah, probably worse.
Probably worse, which we will compensate for, but only because the two of you have such a good rapport.
Compensating for Nick is always the story of my life.
Only because the two of you have such a good rapport. But I think that's what makes you good at the job that you do too. But so typically what I would start with is, what do you do best in the writing career? And then what's the hardest for you? So you can pick whichever one of those you'd like to start with, but what's the easiest and what's the hardest?
Probably the easiest for me is, I'm going to say, writing. I think I can write a story pretty well and do it pretty quickly for the most part. So I think that I've got down. Now, if we're talking about inside of the manuscript and how I'm writing, I think I blow away some dialogue and some action scenes are kind of my go-to. My hardest thing is going to be, honestly, just keeping track of, like, when it gets to the marketing or all the other things, is really the detail oriented part of stuff. So that's always going to be my issue.
So typically it's
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, here's an insert comment. Yeah.
I've been on my best behavior.
No, I'm throwing it to you to go, yep, that's right.
Yeah. And we should point out at this stage that Doug, in this week prior, did his Clifton Strengths, right? And supplied Becca with his Clifton Strengths, which are all part of this thing.
So I have Doug's Clifton Strengths in front of me, and I'll go through a couple of them just to kind of highlight what we just talked about. And then Doug, have you talk a little bit more. But Clifton Strengths in particular are about the ways people are the most successful. Like, of all the possible ways that humans could be successful at a thing, there are 34 different categories, and Doug has a particular order of those where you have some really high and some really low. And everyone has that, by the way. Everyone is great at some things and not great at other things. And I think what we end up focusing on a lot in that stamp mentality, right, is, well, good writers are good at details. Good writers are great at marketing. Good writers, like, we attach a lot of weight to certain characteristics over other characteristics that really are not necessary to attach. So one of the comments we made, which I think we did off camera, which I'll repeat because we were talking about efficiency. And I said, well, yeah, it's great to be efficient if that's what you want. Like, if what you are aiming at is efficiency, then being efficient is great. But efficiency is not righteous. It is not the correct way to be. The correct way to be is how you are. So Doug in particular has a strength that is actually an efficiency oriented strength, but it's a subconscious efficiency strength. So adaptability is like water, and it just flows wherever the current takes it. So if you have banks with the water, it will flow in a particular direction. And if you have no banks, the water will go wherever it's going to go, wherever gravity takes it. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I'm a bank. Ashley's
yes,
a bank.
You are the bank.
I'm a bank.
Yep.
That's the service we provide.
It is.
You're a muddy slide of dirt is what you are. So,
or sometimes a sandbag, right? And sometimes not a sandbag, because sometimes adaptability does need to be a little bit more focused than it is, but sometimes it doesn't. Adaptability is excellent at humor. It tends to be really good at finding those like found moments of funniness in spaces that other people may not see it as quickly.
That's fair. I'm funny. Everybody knows that. I should tell everybody that. I have a shirt that says it and everything. Yeah.
But I bet you are funny, though. Like, I don't need to know you to know that, because adaptabilities are great at that.
Well, my wife says no all the time, so I'm not sure.
But there may be something else going on there.
No,
yeah,
it's his unfunniness that's funny.
Yes, exactly. Or the willingness to go there in the moment that makes people uncomfortable and laugh, right? Like, that's also something adaptability is good at. So the upside of adaptability is they are unfazed by things. Just usually very few things bother them. The downside is too much pressure can be really freezing for them, because when pressure comes from too many places and they don't know what to do, they will often go to the path of least resistance, which is usually to not act, right? So then the question would be, do you set your writing life up in a way that provides you with the riverbanks that doesn't force you to go in a direction that feels too far against what you want to do? So not too directive, but not undirective, just enough pressure. Like deadlines are a great example. A lot of adaptability people will function better with knowing that they have to do something at a certain time, in terms of like the adaptability is the deadline is what makes me take action. But then too many deadlines can be really overwhelming,
then
right?
You push it all back and you're like, yeah, no, that doesn't sound at all like me. So,
so the upside of knowing that, and Nick, I would assume this is not a surprise to you, like having worked with Doug for a while, the upside of knowing that is there are a lot of things that low adaptability people stress about that just will not phase a high adaptability person. And they're often the person who's like, yeah, we've got this, it's fine. And it may not be what the low adaptability person wants it to be. And usually those are our spouses, right? If you're a high adaptability person, you're usually married to someone who's very low adaptability. Yeah.
Number 34 strength, adaptability.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that's in Nick's bottom line, because I think we talked about that. Yeah.
It's in the frickin' basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's all bank. So
What's really fascinating, though, is so Doug, you have both futuristic and adaptability, which are opposite strengths. So usually what adaptability people struggle with is the inability to conceive the future at all. They're very present moment oriented. But because you have the opposite also present, it allows you to be in the future sometimes and in the present sometimes, which makes you even more adaptable for people who are low adaptability. So like you can enter the stream with somebody like Nick. I think you were high strategic. And did you have futuristic high as well?
I'm focus, intellection, input, learner, activator.
So focus is that strategic thinking,
Focus is
forward
your number
moving.
one?
Let's keep going. Focus is one, right?
That makes sense.
So activator is 10 for Doug, which means that catalyzation would be more comfortable, which probably makes the two of you work well together. It creates some impatience. Usually activators are pretty impatient with things that are slow moving. They don't move fast enough. And then Doug's...
For the listener who can't see Nick's face, who's like, yeah, Doug's fucking frustrating.
I feel seen.
Because adaptability people are so go with the flow that they don't have that drive toward the goal the way that a focused person would have. But that's what makes... Are you familiar with straight and wavy characters in comedy? So straight and wavy characters are... you'll have to help me with this because I can't remember the name. Is it Trading Places? That was the comedy show with the two guys who were roommates, where there's a character that is so rigid in their thinking and then a character that is so adaptable in their thinking. And the comedy between the two of them is the way that they clash, right? So the straight character and the wavy character is a common comedy, trope.
The odd couple.
The odd couple. So the high adaptability, low adaptability combo is usually the straight and wavy character, where there's one person who's very driven, very goal oriented, very used to things progressing in a way that is predictable, like very predictable. And usually low adaptability people thrive in predictability. And then high adaptability people thrive in unpredictability. So when things are too predictable, adaptability people get bored. So that's actually so terminology wise, our weaknesses are not our low strengths. Our weaknesses are the abundance of our top strengths. So when an adaptability person is too go with the flow, they don't get anything done. So they need those banks in order to help them stay motivated. High focus people or low adaptability people are so driven that they are often not adaptable to change very quickly. So they can struggle a little bit more with that, things aren't going as planned. If I don't have a contingency plan, then I get a little freaked out about it, right? Whereas high adaptability people will often not take advantage of opportunities effectively because they can't see the goal orientation. So the two of you provide a really good balance to each other in terms of Doug will help Nick to be significantly more adaptable and Nick will help Doug to be significantly more focused, which is like a great combo. Usually what I encourage people with a lot of relationship building strengths, and Doug, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 relationship building strengths in your dominant bucket, is that you need people who care enough about you as a person that they will help you accomplish the goals that you want, but you won't necessarily be hyper driven to get there. So partnership becomes a really good. So you've done well there. Congratulations. So you mentioned being good at dialogue. High communication people are often very good at dialogue because they have an auditory sort of listening capacity that's very rhythmic. They're often good at cadence. They have a kind of a natural anticipation of how people are going to act in particular situations, how they're going to talk, and then how messages land. So I think a lot of people expect communication to be high among writers, but it's one of the lowest influencing strengths among writers. It's like 27 out of 34 because it's so verbal and so many writers are very internal. And so communication people are really great at dialogue. So it's not a surprise that dialogue is easy for you. What's hard for communication people typically is over communicating. That's the basement of communication is when you are not feeling understood or when something isn't coming across the right way. There's that feeling of like, I need to see the light bulb go on. I need to over explain.
No, that's true. Yes, I very much. I'm more aware of it now, but it's definitely something that I used to do, especially more in my personal life. You start to explain everything that you try to do, and now that I'm more aware of it, and I don't do it nearly as much as I used to.
And we usually see a repeating, right, of whatever the communication message is that you feel is not landing. You'll repeat it in a slightly different way to see if the message will land correctly. So most of communication development is shorting, right? So instead of me repeating it 4 times, I try to repeat it only 3 and then just allow people to not understand something. But depending on what's driving that, what is it about that conversation that needs me to feel understood, not heard, not validated, but understood, is almost always about how other people react to it. So a huge portion of communication development is understanding how to look for signals of knowledge, passing, or messaging that are not in the moment. Because an awful lot of people process at different speeds. And so communication people can learn how to read those signals, and then that can get easier. Most communication people are good at stuff like this.
I mean, I did actually have a degree in journalism, but I didn't actually do much with it. But it's also a good opportunity. I enjoy meeting the people and talking to people. So to me, it's a great chance to connect with people that normally aren't in my little window here in Memphis. So, and I get to hang out with Nick. So
most of the time.
I mean, look at his face. He's adorable. So you just want to squeeze his little furry cheeks, don't you?
So the fun, positive dynamic, though, of the two of you is definitely something that I remember from the first time being on. So I wasn't surprised to see positivity as your number one, Doug. And then my question for positivity people is always, because negativity drains you so much, right? But you have both positivity and adaptability, well, and really developer, which is your number 2, who all share a need for non-negative spaces.
He's so fucking annoyingly positive. That's the problem.
Yes. Yeah, there's a compulsivity with positivity to always be looking at the upside of things, right? And almost to not be able to sit inside of negativity because there's always a positive way of framing that. So that would be my, I guess, what is your community like around you in terms of writers? What's the positive space? And you don't necessarily have to answer any of this here if you don't want to. But the thing I always want positivity people to be on the lookout for is who drains you. I know it's not Nick, even though you're going to joke and say that it's Nick, it's not.
Sometimes I think it is, actually.
No, I'm not. It's not Nick. It's not Nick. Damn kids. No. That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I think sometimes I get so much, maybe frustrated more than drained, just with people who, especially having done the podcast and talked to a lot of people and been in the world. You always have people who ask the same questions about publishing, and then it is incredibly frustrating when they just go, "Oh, but that's not going to work for me," kind of a thing. And I'm like, whatever, you know. But that's really bad. I'm not really sure. I'd have to think about what would be really draining for me.
Yeah, given that it's your number 1, you probably leave those spaces pretty quickly, like that you don't hang out in them. And this may not help just in terms of like part of understanding our strengths is understanding other people's. When people have higher strategic or higher focus or higher achiever, lower adaptability or lower positivity, this can happen with as well. They don't always have the ability to rebound the way that you would be able to rebound. So like if you do something and it doesn't work for you, you have that positive outlook of like, oh, but I could use this, or it was worth trying, etc. When people don't have access to those talents, it can be really damaging to them sometimes to try things that they wouldn't be good at. So sometimes it can actually be a positive thing for them to say, that's not going to work for me, because it saves them from the drain later that would happen because you have an ability to rebound from things that's really advanced. like to a point where things wouldn't phase you that would crush other people.
So it's more like and just like clarify. So like the idea of if something's going wrong, and this comes not just from a writing standpoint, but I mean, I've got a lot of years doing other things before that. But if you hit a problem in any kind of work, I'm always more of okay, well, let's figure out the situation to get out of it.
Yes. And you would naturally move around problems more quickly than other people would, where like a lot of lower adaptability people, I don't necessarily see this in Nick though. So maybe that's why the two of you work so well together. But a lot of lower adaptability people get stuck in the problem so much that they hang out there, and it drains positivity people pretty significantly, where it's sort of like a person comes back to you with the same problem over and over and over again, and they just can't accept that it's okay that this didn't work out the way that you thought it would. And adaptability people are so like, it's fine, it's going to be fine. People can't always get to that place. So my guess is that you don't stay with that kind of space very often, because it would be like, I can't force somebody to see this. Like they're either going to see it or they're not. I just don't want to be around it if they're going to, sort of be that way. There is a skill chain for being able to let things go. And like so many people have a skill gap where adaptability doesn't have a skill gap there, which is adaptability is very advanced at acceptance. And it's something that so few people have the ability to do. And if I could give one trait from adaptability to everybody in the writing industry, it would be acceptance. Because I think we see a lot of people waste a lot of time trying to force one particular book to sell, or trying to force one particular tactic to work because it should work. This is the best option, whatever. And adaptability people are so good at like, try the next one. The next train will come along. It'll be fine. Like, don't worry about it. And the people who have that skill gap, they just can't get to that acceptance place the way that you can. So yeah, you definitely have an advanced skill there. Yeah.
Notice how he's hanging on little bits
hanging
and
pieces
on throughout this. Yeah.
He's hanging on. That's probably given you a lot more success than you might credit it for, because I don't know that you would necessarily see what would happen to you if you weren't that way. But because I coach so many writers, like I'll see people who just cannot accept. They cannot accept. And they'll spend years stuck trying to sell the same book over and over, recovering, retrying, relaunching. And adaptability has this like, whatever, man, like it's going to be fun. Just move on to the next book. And it's such a helpful veteran perspective that a lot of writers can't get to, that even just us having this conversation about your talent is going to help some people realize like, oh, this is, so here's an example. And I'm sure both of you would agree with this just because you've been in this industry so long, published so much. I have a 7-figure client who made a comment to me once that was the epitome of veteran perspective, which is, if I had known how many 1-star reviews it would take me to hit $1 million, I would have wanted them to come so much faster than they did. Right? Adaptability people automatically would be like, yeah, 1-stars suck. I don't want them, but I'm not going to lose my mind over a 1-star review.
I think that's fair. I don't ever look at my reviews anymore. Like I did at first, but nowadays I'm like, whatever. So it is what it is. So,
because you know that it doesn't really have that much of an impact on whether books sell or not. Like I think the veteran perspective, the like long-term perspective is the number of 1-star reviews doesn't matter all that much. And the way that one book sells doesn't matter all that much to the future of other books selling. And because you have that acceptance practice, you have the ability to get farther in the skill chain of being able to try more things and advance your career more because you just take more shots on goal. That I think people who are so precious with individual shots could learn a lot from that, but they won't necessarily do it if we don't have conversations like this, right? Because adaptability is not a strength that you would hear extolled a lot, which is unfortunate because it brings some things to the table that are so necessary for long-term career success.
I feel lousy about my number 34 adaptability now.
I was going to say, what I feel like and what I'm thinking is like the whole statement that, Michael Jordan used to make all these shots because he took and missed so many of them because he took them.
Oh,
You're
okay,
certainly
sure.
the machine gun. Yeah. You're a machine gun, not a sniper. I'll give you that.
Yes, that's the thing though, right? Like, so where Nick gets the move on and learn is from your learner. Like, because I think Nick has a similar attitude, but it comes from a learner place and not an adaptability place. Learner is about competency gaining.
And I've got Doug because he's going to try everything, and I just wait, sit back, see what happens. And if it works, I'll do it.
Yes, that's exactly. Not enough people take advantage of that when you have friends who are super risky. Like when you have friends who don't mind trying new things out, or they handle adversity well, like just watch them and see what they do and then do the stuff that works. We've talked about adaptability a little bit. Positivity, I think, is I want people to believe that it's possible, right? So some of what happens in the industry right now, which is just an unfortunate space of where we're at, is that there's a lot of focus on what's not possible and a lot of focus on how hard things are. And some of that from an empathetic perspective is just people are finally realizing it. And so they're talking about it more. But positivity is the person who brings to the table there's still stuff that you never know what's going to happen with your next book. So let's just focus on, like that kind of mentality can be really helpful. The developer stuff is probably going to show up more inside your manuscript than it's going to show up probably in other areas. But developers tend to be good at arcing. So they tend to be good at people are going to learn something through the book, and they kind of move people along intuitively, the guideposts that they need in order to get them to the place where they can change from one thing to another thing. Are you character driven in your writing? I would assume so. So positivity, developer, adaptability, and relator are all strengths that tend to lean towards character driven writing. So would you say that your characters are controllable?
I think so. I mean, granted, like my main character, Chase Warden, is like a Jack Reacher. He doesn't have a huge arc anyway. He's just a wrecking ball, basically. But his character is still important.
Do you find, though, that his arcs come from what other people want in the book? Like what the villain wants or what the minor characters want or anything like that? Or where does your arc come from? The conflict arc.
The conflict arc is generally he's thrown in against somebody at some point. So his general motive is he lives on a boat and wants to just kind of be, but something causes him to and he's driven to at that point intervene. I guess is probably the best way to say it. He's driven to step in and help people who are in trouble. So I guess to that regard, it is going to be driven by the antagonist because whatever he does is what puts him into it. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard this. It'll be interesting to hear if anybody else who's listening heard this, but the description you gave of the character is the most adaptability hero ever. Who just wants to sit there and be unbothered. And then unfortunately people keep acting on him and then he has to react.
And that's pretty much, I mean, his almost all reaction for the most part, until there's for my books, I guess, and I never really thought about that, but yeah, for at least the first half of the book, it's all reactive. And then at some point it's when he turns around and takes it. Yeah. So
your newer books that you're writing is as a big step up in characters. Cause like the J Delp, there's way more depth of character because it's appropriate, right? It's and I feel like that's, Doug's best writing is coming out, in the newer series that he's been doing. Both newer series have more depth of character.
Well, you haven't read that erotic shifter book I'm writing right now about doors and stuff. So,
well, there really needs to be development in those. Those romance audiences have the highest expectations about character development of any audience, for sure. But what's interesting about that is just a cursory look at your strengths would say that at some point you would become an extremely character-driven arc writer. So probably what you're doing is as you're developing in your skills, you're digging into parts of that developer or that relator. So developer, again, is the moving people through arcing. And then relator is getting deeper and deeper into people's relationship. So as you meet someone, if you're a relator, you are uncertain of who they are at first, and then you get to know them better by getting to know more about them. And relators usually have the ability to know things about people that nobody else knows. because they'll keep going deeper where other people might hold back a little, right? So if you're applying more of that relator space or developer to your books, that's a level up in craft for sure, but it's coming from that ability to have an arc understanding and then to exercise it. So leading more into developer difference in steps is usually like, what do they need to progress to this next place that would make them a better person? That kind of intuition. I don't know if you do that in your daily life. Like, I would assume you do it a little bit as a parent.
I mean, yeah, I would say, I guess, as a parent, yeah, I mean, my kids are all old now, so at some point, yeah, you would try to develop them. Outside of that, I think, yeah, I'd try to do, especially with the writing community, like here locally, I've done some things trying to just, because I would like to help people who are trying to start out the same way. So I think that might be where some of that comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. And the earlier people are in their writing journey, the more important positivity is for them, just because you got to really fuel that imposter syndrome that a lot of people get.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of people that feel that way. And I've seen them come through, and that's why, and I think that's a lot of the reason why, like, some people do the one book and they don't feel like it succeeds. So they just stop right there. So
yeah, some of it is that they can't see a world in which having a book that doesn't do well will lead to success. Like, there are so many people who take the results as some kind of indicator about the future. They're operating under this old New York rules mentality where your debut is the only chance you get. And they don't realize that that's what they're doing. And so a lot of what I think can be helpful for people whose first books don't do well is helping them understand the shift from New York rules. But now we're not in New York rules anymore. We're in the golden age of publishing rules. And the golden age of publishing rules are, you get to decide whether you quit or not. And there is no predictability in your past failures. Like, there's no reason that you can't have success in the future. So I feel sometimes like those little micro steps that people take, they get paused in these places where they don't have a skill. And your positivity or your adaptability could fill the skill in for them and say, well, you just never know what's going to happen. And it's not predictable. There's nothing saying your next book can't take off. There's nothing saying this couldn't be a learning opportunity. So that's a really good application of that positivity developer and adaptability to a place where they probably have a skill gap.
I think Doug's really good at coaching and helping people. And because he's so positive, he really does encourage people to stick with it and work at it and what have you. I think that definitely is a strength. Okay, let's find something to poke at him now.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Nick's bored. He was like, can we be mean now? So like, I don't care for all this positivity thing. So
Nick, where's your learner? Are you you're a top 5 learner?
Yeah, number 4.
Number 4. And then where's your developer?
I was looking as you were talking about all these things. 29.
29. And where's your maximizer?
Ooh, maximizer. That sounds like a big club, like with spikes on it. You hit someone over the head with, I got nailed with the maximizer. Number 25.
Okay. So the developer maximizer combination is typically problematic because they're
How'd
so
this turn
opposite.
on me, Becca? You're
No, not you.
You're still talking about me.
This is
That's mine.
This is about Doug.
She's saying I'm
So
typically
Doug
problematic, which was one of my. I guarantee I had at least 2 managers who said that in a performance review.
Oh, I thought I listed 2 things, and she's like, "Oh, that's problematic."
She's
I'm
like,
like,
"Oh, you're a problem."
No, there are 2 things that Doug has really high. Yeah, it's his number 2 and number 4 strength. The downside, I think, of developer and maximizer together is that there's so much focus on potential that there often is not enough of a focus on, okay, but diminishing returns, right? Like, where are we throwing sort of good money after bad, in the way that like a high focus person would have more pressure to make sure that we maximize yeah, Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see that for me. Yeah, I'm more like, also like, oh, this isn't working. I'll just ignore it. So.
Yes. Yeah. So sometimes that's an upside, because from a maximizer perspective, there are some things that aren't worth putting pressure on, some things that aren't worth developing. This was going to be one of my questions, I think, about you said that you have a little bit of a pain point around marketing. So what does marketing mean to you?
It's vitally important, unfortunately. So it's kind of the way I would say that. But
Unfortunately,
yeah.
yep.
I guess it can be frustrating. Like that's part of it is depending on how you market, and there's so many ways to market. You can, with social media or ads, it's just sometimes you do these things and feel like it's not going anywhere. So that's kind of where some of the frustration is. And then are you doing it right?
So the upside of having Maximizer in that space is that it intuitively you are going to want to do things less that are less important. So like that's a major upside with Maximizer. A lot of people have an expectation of like this should work in a certain way, but Maximizers are much more results oriented. So when everyone says like you should be doing social media, I would say objectively speaking, no one should be doing social media except about 10 people. Because it's not working for most people, especially given how much time they spend doing it. But we have this expectation that no, social media marketing is free. So I have to do that. Like I have to spend the time doing something that doesn't cost me any money, not thinking time costs money, right? But maximizers are so ROI sensitive that they will often hold back from committing a lot of time to something that feels like it's got diminishing returns attached to it. So maximizers are usually smarter about what to quit in marketing because the goal in marketing is to see that it's making a difference. And if you can't tell whether or not it's making a difference, it's not making a difference. But most people are not cutting off their efforts quick enough because they've heard we're supposed to run ads, we're supposed to do social media, we're supposed to, etc. But the reality is if you keep spending time doing things that aren't yielding results, you're not spending time doing things that could yield results. So in the way that nothing is predictable, marketing can be frustrating, sure, because it is also a lot of detail orientation, which adaptabilities tend to not be great at details, which is normal. But again, maximizers and focus does this too. So Nick, I think you get this as well. But the ability to prioritize things that are working better and deprioritize things that are not working as effectively is a really important skill that not enough writers are capable of doing naturally. So a lot of people are doing a lot of stuff they don't need to be doing because they don't have the natural ability to see, oh, this is diminishing returns, or, oh, this is not meeting the goal that I set out for it. So like Nick, you have the focus goal orientation. Doug has the maximizer. So intuitively, the two of you are going to do less stuff that doesn't contribute to the bottom line. And I think where I hear the frustration is more just that nothing is predictable. So you can't know for sure. Ads are for sure going to work for you. Well, so saturated, who knows if they're going to work or not? And they could work one day and not work the next day, which is, how do you then decide how to spend your time? But you're probably both of you making pretty wise choices about what to deprioritize in your marketing, where I think it's harder for other people to know intuitively what to deprioritize. So that's the majority of the top 5. Like obviously we did a super cursory work, but oftentimes what we'll get to at the end is some kind of action point about, what to do or how do I develop this better? And probably the only thing that I would suggest is just to make sure that you always have the banks of the river wherever you really want to accomplish something. If you're getting frustrated with a lack of accomplishment, I would bring somebody on board to sort of be your banks of the river. So for the marketing, it might be beneficial to bring somebody on as a partner or hire someone or do some work with a coach or something that will help you create more banks in the river to evaluate and analyze quicker and move on faster from expectations that you don't need to have. But you may be doing some of that naturally on your own. So I don't know that you would necessarily need that, but that's probably where I would start. And then using podcasting, because you have high communication and high adaptability, so humor and messaging as a way of promoting your books is probably a good idea because it's a place where you have natural ability and you enjoy it.
So the bottom line here, Becca, after going through this stuff, is there any hope for Doug?
See, I heard what she said actually was that I was doing a really good job, and I just, just keep on keeping on.
This is this positivity and adaptability.
There's the positivity.
He's just glossing over everything else. And all he's
Yeah.
taking out of this, just so you know, when we're done, he's going to go, I'm advanced.
You know that I'm the Michael Jordan of publishing. Yeah.
She didn't even
Exactly.
say that.
That's
I'm
all
just
he got out of
right,
this.
That's right.
Of course, all I got out of it is the fact that I'm a sandbag and keeping him on the straight and narrow.
I mean, but that's what he
Sandbag
needs,
is your
right?
nickname,
And
isn't
well, but also, so Nick, what's your first? Do you have your report in front of you?
I dangerously do, yes.
What is your first blue strength? Like on the side with the colors, what's your first blue?
I was looking at the blues. It's potentially a problem. Number 7, individualization.
Indie. Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
And then you drop quite a few to 13th. And then basically my bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. My bottom 7 has 6 in the blue category.
Right, but it's probably adaptability and includer and stuff like that, right? Like
It is,
positivity.
yeah.
Yeah. Are you relator at 13 or what's your 13?
My 13 is connectedness.
Oh, connectedness. Okay, even better. Even better. So if from strengths math, your A+ levels are probably like 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. Your A levels are somewhere between 3 and 11 or 12. Your A- levels are probably end around 15. So you're still in pretty decent, strong territory down through 13, 14, 15, 16, somewhere around there. And that's usually when you drop down to either like a B- C+ level.
I see. So they're the, when you're saying, is that grading the amount of influence they have on you?
On you, your ability to use them quickly and how much potential they have for development. So I think I shared this on the last podcast, but I'll say it again really quick just because I think it's important. So the reason the strengths have numbers is that where you are the absolute strongest, you have the highest amount of potential for development. So this is the reader speeds thing, right? Where they took the 2 groups of readers through the same speed reading class. And when they had grouped them together for average speed and then above average speed with no teaching. And when they went through the same course, same teacher, same course, the average kids went from 90 words a minute to 150 words a minute. But the above average talented kids went from 350 to 3,000 words a minute. So like, yeah, their ability to maximize their capacity in those really high level strengths is kind of unparalleled. So we call that your top 1% area in strengths development. So your top 1% area, focus, stuff like that, right at the top for Nick, and then positivity, developer, adaptability probably for Doug. That's your 3,000 words a minute level where you could just have unlimited capacity. But you're probably still in your top 10% levels through about number 10. And you're probably in the top 15% through 13, 14, 15 or somewhere like that, right? So roughly the top half of your strengths are still worth paying attention to. It's just that your 3,000 words a minute level stuff is like your top 3 or 4 strengths.
I got you.
So your highest likelihood for weaknesses is in your top 3 or 4 strengths because they're the extreme. So if you think about strengths as nuclear power, you can either power the city or blow it up with those top strengths.
Good or evil.
Yeah. And you have equal ability for both, right? So like the development potential becomes, so like here's an example. My number 1 is input, which Doug has at 7. And I think, Nick, do you have input? Hi, 3. So all 3 of us have this. So exciting to be able to talk about it because it sucks sometimes. Because the input is like a voracious desire to know more and more and more and more. Upside is high input people have lists of courses and books and strategies and tactics and all these things. The downside is if you give us our druthers, we will do nothing but that. Like I could just research things because I'm a number 1, right? So that's my 3,000 words a minute capacity. By the way, the world record at the time was 25,000 words a minute. So it goes up in extremes from the top 1%. Yeah, it's insane.
Words a minute? Man, you'd be like...
High level capacity. Yeah, it's literally they're doing this.
I was going to say, can you turn a page fast enough? Yeah, it's really insane.
Yeah, exactly. Like they can they read faster than they can turn pages. It's incredible.
Wow. Nick, You read way. You could be the slow reader guy. Like do they have a slow reading class for Nick? Because he can go.
I would excel.
But you're trying to gain all of the wisdom from the page, right? Like that's the reason that you read slower is because you're trying to fully understand.
No, he's trying
everything.
to sound things out.
Yeah. No. But Nick, your individualization at 7 is still very dominant, and your connectedness at 13 is still really strong. Like it's still worth paying attention to. So if you think about the combination of individualization is the ability to see importance and utility and difference among people. So like you can naturally see Doug's adaptability and your focus, even though they're opposites, as very important together. Like you can see what they can contribute to each other very easily and naturally. And then connectedness is that sort of cause and effect relationship dynamic, sort of like I serve a purpose for other people and other people serve a purpose for me. And our connections with each other are really important and are meaningful. And so it's easier for me to be glad to be the barriers around my friend's adaptability than it is for me to feel frustrated by that, right? Like,
so you got to be glad to be the bank. You got to be the bank.
I got to be the bank. I'm the sandbag. So,
but only
you
for Doug.
Be happy that you're the sandbag.
Only for Doug. You are only the sandbag for Doug. You're not a sandbag anywhere else in your life. Just for Doug.
Just for Doug. Just because he needs it. And so, well, we have to wrap it up because guys in little white coats are taking Doug and hauling him off to the loony bin now, based on the results that you came up with. So. Thank you so much for coming back on and sharing this with us. And we'll where can people find you when they want to come and have coaching like this?
So betterfasteracademy.com is the easiest. The Quitcast, QUIT, on YouTube is the best place to find the content.
Brilliant. Yeah, I've been listening to quite a few of those lately. Cool. Thank you so much, Becca. This has been a dream come true. And Doug will stay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering what's wrong with him tonight.
It hasn't happened to me yet, so
no, he's just moved right on from it.
I'm like, whatever.
Yes, he did.
You guys better accept me the way I am.
All right. Thanks again. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Becca. I appreciate it.
Becca is so cool. A little scary. I feel like she can see right through my forehead into my tiny little pea-sized brain.
Yeah, for sure. Well, she basically was doing that to me. She was like, it split my head open and looked inside there.
Took a look. But you're positive about it because your strength is, yeah.
If not, I'm going to develop along the way. Yeah, so yeah.
Adapt if you need to. And then you're going to maximize it.
I'm going to do it, and then I might communicate it, which honestly, she didn't really touch a whole lot on my communication, which is probably good because I don't know how I scored that high. So
doesn't Ashley call you the maximizer? Isn't that your nickname?
That's my porn name. That was it.
Exactly. The maximizer. This is what I got out of it, is you and I combined make a functioning human being. Separate, we've got issues, but combined, we can get somewhere.
No, remember, she did say that I was the Michael Jordan of the publishing world.
I told her that was the only thing you were going to remember out of this whole thing.
I'm just saying. I take it like I am. I'm probably going to have a shirt made that says, Michael Jordan of the publishing world.
Air Doug.
So, Air Doug.
Well, it's very cool. And it's like anything else. I think it's a tool, right? It's another tool to work with.
And understanding what you want to do and who you are helps a lot in anything you do, whether it's writing or not. So it is a good way to kind of take a step and look at it. And if you're struggling with something like that, I mean, you listen to Becca, like you're right. She looks into you. She can kind of cut right to the heart of it. And I think that's amazingly important. So it's definitely worth check out her site and see, have her coach you. Cause that was, while it's emotionally, I don't know. I'm still a little like, oh. Still, it's well worth doing. I feel good about it afterwards. So
you should feel good about it. You came out being, hey, you're a happy person. That's what I got. You're positive. It's great. If you feel you get value, not from us because we're a couple of idiots, but people like Becca, who we have on the show, then consider supporting us.
I'm
on
positive
Patreon.
we're a couple of idiots.
Even if we adapt and develop, we're still a pair of idiots. That's true. All right. So we're at patreon.com/the Two Authors Podcast. Patreon, if you don't know of it, it's a site for creators where you can go support a lot of creative bands and artists and what have you use it. It's a great place to get a little extras. We put lots of extras on there for our Patreons.
We got some nuggets. We got some bonus questions. We have some fun things on there. And who knows, we may throw some more.
Lots of stuff. Yep. So big thanks to our friends at Vellum for their support. Try vellum.com/two authors to find out more. And you'll find the link in the show notes as well as our guest information. And we'll be back next week with the Two Authors Podcast. Until next time, be cool to each other.
Fair winds and following seas.
That was the Maximizer saying goodbye.
The Maximizer.
You've been listening to the Two Authors Podcast with Nicholas Harvey and Douglas Pratt. Subscribe on your favorite platform for new shows coming every week.